Hello, everyone, and I am Val, and this is What to See with Val. We are getting very close to Christmas and a ton of big movies coming out for the holiday, but today we are going to be talking about the film Homestead, and I'm very excited to introduce you to the director. This is Ben Smallbone. How are you doing?
Good, Val. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to chat about Homestead.
I'm excited to have you here. It is towards the end of the year, and so as a film critic, I have spent the last, I would have to say, month watching about, I don't know, 20 movies a week plus, just trying to get everything in. And I was excited to be able to squeeze this one in last night. I'm in Utah, and so this one kind of hits close to home for me in a way, in that the studio that you made this film for is located right here. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the studio, Angel Studio, are in Provo,
Provo?
Utah.
Yeah.
Provo, sorry.
No, you're
And
good.
then we film about an hour north of that in a little town called Bountiful. The homestead is a real place. It's on 400 acres at the top of the mountain right there. Literally, as the crow flies, probably less than 5 miles from downtown Salt Lake City, but it's another world up there. It's a pretty incredible place, and you're looking over the lake below us. And honestly, I hadn't spent much time in Utah outside of skiing once or twice in my lifetime, and I've been there almost nonstop for 2 years now, and it has become my favorite state of the West. So congratulations in living in Utah. It's a special place.
Yeah, it is one of those things. It is very beautiful here, and the people are very welcoming. And yeah, there are still a lot of places in Utah that just have not, that you can still discover. But the cool thing about this film that I really liked is that a lot of people don't understand that there is still a lot of acreages in places like Provo where you can have, and Bountiful, and Sandy, all these places that surround me, that you can have something like a combine, like this homestead that we're talking about in the film. And so if it seems unbelievable to you, just come to Utah, because we have a lot of places around here that these things exist. I want to jump right off the bat and say this movie is PG-13. Angel Studios is very well known for making faith-based movies in different genres. And this is, this movie frustrated me a little bit. So I'm going to be a little hardcore, because we're going to talk about it. We're really going to get into it, but I want y'all that are watching and listening to know, I don't want to give like spoilers away, but we are going to kind of talk about some elements of the film that I think are important to pay attention to without giving too much away. And I don't actually want to call it a film. This is a project, because I didn't know until the end of the movie that this is actually a movie and a series, which we'll get into in a little bit. But as this movie started, I had in my head, okay, it's Angel Studios. It's going to be a little faith-based, but I did know it was kind of about, something happening in the world that changes the environment, happening to the characters. I don't like to deep dive into a film before I watch it, because I like the element of surprise, and I don't want to get an opinion before I watch a film, which is funny because I'm a film critic. So I wasn't quite sure how to take some of the moments, because as you jump into the film, it's very much, okay, is this a natural disaster movie? Is there a war going on? What happened? And so you build this emotional roller coaster, not only with your characters, but with the viewer on, we don't know what happened. We know there was some explosion somewhere. We know people are panicking. And we open with a character that we're not quite sure his background, but we know that he's dealt with keeping people safe before in a very military sort of way. So I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, I know there's faith-based movies that talk about this stuff, but this isn't going down the same route that you would think a faith-based movie is going in, which for me is very refreshing. I do like faith-based films, but they kind of fit into a box over here.
Absolutely.
And this film fits in several different boxes. Was that something that you were going for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a saying that's not too popular within the faith entertainment industry, that we often create art the way we wish the world was and not the way the world really is. And the reality is we wanted to show some of the darker sides of humanity in this film. And, to me, light shines brightest in the darkness. And so diving straight in, I don't think good or bad, God or Jesus is mentioned in the first 45 minutes to an hour of the film. And that's not necessarily purposeful, other than the fact that these people are racing time, and the nuclear bomb that goes off in LA, they're trying to escape it. And, in that situation, you might be saying a quick prayer and then you're getting out of there. And so we tried to play it in a very realistic way with realistic characters. They're human. Some are Christian, some are not. Some people are, more leaning conservative, right wing, Second Amendment, grabbing their guns in a situation like this. Others are more peace loving farmers, homesteaders that are trying to survive without having to grab a gun and kill anybody. And the collision of those two, characters and storylines and worlds is where the fun drama starts to happen.
And I think we've seen similar things over the last couple of years, not only in movies, but in television shows on like, what would we do if a situation like this happened? There was a movie that came out earlier this year called Civil War. And I really enjoyed that film because it doesn't really say that there's a side. The only side is you surviving. Yeah. And when you jump into this film, I feel like that is very mimicked in that we all think that we would do better, right, than the things that we see in these movies about people, taking people's food, putting people up at gunpoint, not helping other people. But until we get into that situation, you don't know what you would do. You would hope that you would do the right thing. But I'm not sure if this was the tone you were trying to go, is making the audience feel frustrated and questioning what they would do, because you have interactions with people that are neighbors, that work together, that have known each other, that have volunteered together, that go to school together, all these different interactions that we have people in our lives. But at the end of the day, if the world is ending, if there are bombs, if you have to get shelter and you know that you are going to run out of supplies, do you put your friends and neighbors before your family? Like, this is a hard question, and it's frustrating as somebody that's watching, because you're like, that is like, what would you do here? Would you let them in? Or no, dude, like, you should have had your own food. You should have had your own guns. You should have been prepared to this. But then you question yourself, wait, is that the right thing to think? That's a horrible way to think. But then what if my family dies because I let this family in? It's all these different things that you're not only seeing the characters struggle with, but as an audience member, if you're really kind of taking in the message, I was struggling a lot. I was yelling at the screen at some point, as you have, and I can't remember his name, but he's like a government official that comes in. Can you remind me of this character?
Yeah, that's Masterson. He is a councilman.
Yes.
A codes councilman that obviously is power hungry and sees the apocalypse as an opportunity to step it up and be the man, but also in hopes that allows him to protect his family and his neighbors. Look, you bring up a really good point. To me, the best kind of art makes you frustrated. It makes you think. It makes you ask some of life's biggest questions. And you just gave me the ultimate compliment, because I want people to sit there and be frustrated. And I want people to sit there and go, gosh, what would I do in this situation? Because I think in times of plenty, when the grocery stores are stocked full and the gas stations have gas, and all of these things are running how our society requires it to run and expects it to run, being kind and generous is easy. But if you take away all of those things that you require every single day and you expect every day, how does that change you? When food is no longer easy, when your taps in your sink and your shower stops working, and your electricity goes out and your cell phone dies, how would you respond? And, I think as a country, it felt like in 2020 with COVID, some things, crazy stuff started to happen, trucking started slowing down. Toilet paper started running out on the shelves, and people started acting like lunatics within 3 days. People were holding up in their houses. People were buying more guns and ammunition than ever before. Obviously, it didn't get there, but it started this kind of game playing in our mind of like, hey, what would it look like if this all happened? And that was inspiration for me being involved in the project. I know it was inspiration for a lot of the writers and even the actors. Looked at COVID and the minor slowdown that was as an example of what we would become if the world fell apart. And my hope is, I would be kind and gracious. I would protect my family. I would fight for my neighbors and my community. But where does that line end? If your neighbor suddenly is sick and has a virus that you don't know what they have, do you let them in the gates? If your neighbor is showing up aggressive at your gate, begging for food at the point of gunpoint, what do you do? How do you respond? And so those are some of the questions that we pose and ask. And honestly, I don't know if I have the answer yet. And I think a lot of times,
I don't know that you need to. I don't know that anybody really has it. I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer there. And I think that therein lies like the frustration, right? Is that I don't know that again, I don't know if putting somebody's family above your own is the right or wrong answer. It's so interesting how you have the situation situated. Sorry, that was weird, but you've got this homestead, and at the bottom of the homestead, you have this gate, and you have people sitting outside the gate. And so you think to yourself, if they don't let them in this gate and they stay there, they're basically going to be watching their friends and neighbors die. Right. So that's a bleak undertone in the back. Right. Yeah. So you have to literally face your decision in front of you. This isn't something on the internet where you can make a comment or you can turn off a war or you can turn off, something bad going on in the world. Like, it is sitting in front of you. It is crying. It is talking to you. It is angry. It is pleading, and it is dying. And was that something that was deliberate in having those people there? Because you could have just focused on everybody inside the homestead. You got a lot of people in there, but now you've got this extra element outside the homestead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we in the society and Western civilization so often hide behind the walls of distance and our devices. And even in the marketing of this movie, there's people that are making comments about the movie hiding behind the walls of Wi-Fi and the internet that would never say anything like that to any of the cast or crew's face. But that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah.
If you were confronted with those words and those things like you are in Homestead, where they're literally within eyesight of the fortress, they're within eyesight of there's a tent city that's built to take in a lot of the neighbors and friends that are accepted inside the walls of the compound. They can see these people right in front of them, and they can see the kids that are starving. They can see the father that's terrified for their safety. In fact, there's a whole sequence, without giving away too much, where Neil McDonough's character is confronted by a friend that he knows from church, that they served the homeless together. And then here he is locking the gate at night with his friend inches from his face on the other side of that gate, having a conversation about, hey, we're going to die out here if you don't help us. And the decision that Neil's character has to make is incredibly difficult. So yes, we wanted, we could have shot it in a way where we put that gate a mile down the mountain if we wanted to. The property is big enough that we could have put it far away, but we wanted it to be something that was right there, that they're constantly confronted with. There's a family that arrives at some point in the film, and when they're pulling in, they're surrounded by the people that can't go in. And they're having to face these men and women and the children that are right there, dirty and hungry, while they pull into the luxury and the resourceful, compound of the homestead. So yeah, that to me is great cinema and great drama, but also encourages people to ask those really difficult questions. What would you do in that situation?
I really love that Neil McDonough is quote unquote a good guy in this movie, depending on how you think about it in this project. Because, kind of binging Yellowstone right now. And he plays a really good bad guy. He's played a bad guy in an Angel Studio production before. He's back for this production. And so he is firm, but you can tell that his character is going through the same questions and conflicts that maybe the audience is going through, because he went and he got prepared. He got prepared. He built a house. He got prepared. He stored his food. This is something Utahns do. We have a lot of food storage here. And he got himself prepared, and he went with a group of friends, and they all got prepared. And so when you have people come up that aren't prepared, you have to say, like, I did this for me and my family, and you have these rules that you need to stick by so that you can last for so long in this preparedness. But then you've got, you've got those wrenches that get thrown in there, and you're just questioning your morality and what the right thing to do is. But he is definitely firm, but also very heartfelt in this film. Now, Bailey Chase's character, he is hardcore. He is a hardcore, no nonsense, like, just if something's happening that he doesn't like, he doesn't even think about it. It's just no. It's like this no, because he is this siloed vision of things that he has seen. Is this correct? Like the places that he's worked, the people that he's helped, and he knows how this can turn bad fast. So you've got his extreme over here. You kind of have, this middle ground. We kind of got to go both ways. And then you have the wife, played by Dawn, and she is kind of over here that we need to help everyone. So you've got the helper, you kind of have, the staunch protector, and then you have him in the middle that's kind of trying to play all different sides of this. Tell me about that dynamic and why those are so important to the film and the story moving forward.
Well, first of all, Neil McDonough, he's played incredible bad guys for the last.
He's a great villain, man.
He's a great villain. He's got such a unique look when he shows up on camera, even in this, in some of the first scenes of the film. You're like, wait, is he good or is he bad? And when he looks right into the lens, his piercing blue eyes cut straight to your soul in so many ways. And as a bad guy, that's really terrifying. So he was attracted to this because he got to play a good guy. He's a cowboy at heart. He loves horses. When he lived up in Canada for a while, they had a ranch. And so he dreamed of kind of playing this kind of good guy. And that attracted him to the project, honestly. If he was another bad guy, I think we would have had more difficulty getting him into the project. And yes, he is he's the protector. He built this place. He's prepared. He's obviously very wealthy. The mansion that he's built for this exact moment, it's a fortress in every way. And in real life, it truly is. We didn't have to do much to prepare it for the filming, because it was already set up for an end world situation, to the point where they have 1 million rounds of ammunition. They have solar power throughout the property. They are self-sufficient enough that they could last up on that property with 150 of their friends for 3 years.
Wow.
Any outside interaction. And that is true. And that's the story in the movie as well. So you have Neil, who's like the peace-loving, prepared, wealthy homesteader. And then you have Bailey Chase's character, who is Jeff Erickson, ex-military. He has been hired by Neil's character to come and protect the homestead. And he takes that way too seriously. He shows up right away, bringing all of his military buddies. They are armed to the teeth, and anybody that comes close to that gate, they are willing to kill them if needed. And obviously that creates a big conflict with Neil and his beautiful wife, Jenna, who's played by Dawn. Both from Yellowstone, uniquely enough. That was not deliberate. The accident. And she has a perspective of the world and the end of the world, that they can love and take care of the people around them, whether they were a part of building the homestead and pre-invited to come to the homestead in an end world situation or not. She wants to take care of her community. And so therefore that begins the struggles with the Jeff, Green Beret, ex-Green Beret military guy who has seen this exact situation in third world countries and in military areas. When you start feeding the masses, that attracts more masses, and more people are now going to know, oh, the rich guy up on the hill is feeding people. He's taking care of people. And before you know it, their gate is in danger of being overrun by hundreds of people. And so therefore he has to make a stand. And that's, again, where some of the fun drama starts to take place.
Let's talk a little bit about, I don't know if it is a supernatural situation, and I know you can't give it away because it doesn't really answer it in the film, but I assume that we're going to dive into the series. But there is a young lady in the film that has a vision of the explosion happening before it happens. So this is where I'm not sure if it is like a faith-based vision or a supernatural vision or something going on. Some people think those are two things. I have a different point of view on that. But so now we've got kind of this faith-based situation where there are some narrations of talking to, just someone, whatever your faith is. I kind of, think that we've got Dawn talking to who I assume is God or Jesus during the film. Then you've got this war action drama thing going on, end of the world. And then you've got this element of supernatural happening. So there's a lot going on in the film. There's a lot of things happening.
Yeah, and I'm sure some people are going to think too much. To me, anybody that critiques it in that way, I'd say, hey, watch the series.
Okay.
We do set up a lot in the hour and 51 minutes of the movie, and we explain a lot in the additional hour and 45 minutes of the next few episodes. Within 20 minutes of the first episode after the movie finishes, we answer a lot of the questions that was really proficiently asked. To me, yeah, it's really unique, right, Val? There's the supernatural, and then there's like the God-inspired prophetic visions. And so many people see them as the same thing. Other people see them as two separate things. She as you're going to learn, I'm going to give her a small spoiler alert here, is she's getting visions from God.
Okay.
She's seeing things that nobody around her even understands. Even the Christians that are at the homestead don't really fully believe or understand what she's seeing. And she's the crazy girl roaming the homestead. But it gets a heck of a lot crazier.
Well, yeah, when you get that many people shut in that situation, you're going to have issues. And then you've handed them, a few more. There are a lot of things that you get in that first hour and a half. And I've watched a lot of movies, and sometimes I watch a 2 and 3 hour movie and I feel like I didn't get enough of the story, and the fact that you were able to fit all of this into an hour and a half. It does seem like a lot. I do want to tell the audience, it does seem like a lot. So I am, I'm going to go over and I'm going to watch the episodes because I want answers to these questions. What made you, and I'm sure this is a question you're getting from everyone, but like, what was your decision to go to make it a film and then a series experience? Because I think that's a little brave, and I wish more filmmakers would do that, because there were a few movies last year that I thought were just way too long for the cinema. And if they would have made it like a short series or a mini series, it would have given them a chance to tell their story in a better way. But I think a lot of filmmakers just think about the big screen. They just think that's where it is. That's where we need to be taken seriously. So what made you decide when you read this story that you wanted to do it that way? Or was it a decision from the beginning it was going to be that way?
No. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey.
Okay.
Ultimately, as a filmmaker, your biggest desire is to see your art up on the big screen, right? In there, it's a controlled environment. They're going to hear it and see it like you can never replicate at home, no matter how fancy of a movie theater you built during COVID. It's not going to be the same as a communal theatrical experience. So that's always the dream. But no, it was always meant to be a series. It was written as a series. The plan was always that. And Angel Studios does things a little unusually, good or bad, depending on how you look at it. But they don't think inside the box. They're in Utah. They're not in Hollywood, and therefore think just a little differently. And they wanted to release this in a creative way. And there was already conversations about potentially taking the first 2 episodes and doing a small, short theatrical release. And then the SAG strike happened. And we were literally on the ground in downtown Salt Lake City and our pre-production office, and we could not get a SAG exemption unless it was an independent film. They weren't greenlighting series at the time. Series was one of the big, especially streaming series, were one of the big issues that SAG was having. And so we said to SAG, hey, if we take the first 2 episodes of what's going to be a series and we merge it into a lengthier script to make the movie, would we be able to get our exemption? And we did. And that's how we were able to film what we did. Otherwise, Homestead would not exist yet. We'd probably be still filming out there right now, raking away 6 feet of snow up on the mountaintop. But yeah, the only way we could get anything made in the middle of the SAG strike was to pitch this, again, crazy idea of taking the first 2 episodes of the series and merge it together to make a feature-length film.
I mean, I feel like it fits with the theme of your film, is you're just going along with your life thinking that everything's going to work out and you've got a plan, and then an explosion happens and you have
absolutely.
to turn the corner. So
now, I don't know if you've worked on the film side before outside of reviewing, but that is filmmaking.
Yes.
Filmmaking is constantly pivoting and adjusting to the blows. And if you don't, your project will fall apart very, very quickly. And so, yeah, we had to do it on the film as well. It did feel like we're in a little homesteading survival boot camp in many ways.
So tell me about this project before we finish up here, and I'll let everybody know how to see the film and a couple other things they should know. But, you know, as a director, you've done quite a few projects. With this project, what are you hoping that people take away from it? Because, like, again, there's a lot going on here, and there's a faith-based community that might go in and say this is a little too dark, too intense for a faith-based film. And then you've got people outside of the faith-based community that might say, okay, you're hitting something that's super hard, but then you kind of add this cheesy faith-based stuff in it. Like, it's not every movie needs to be for everyone. I'm a huge component. Like, I feel that 100%, but you have some worlds colliding here. And what are you hoping the audience will get from this?
Yeah, my hope is that both audiences are patient with each other and come out and see the film. You know, going into this, there's always like, who is this for? Every film, you have a very specific audience. And yes, I think, to me, I wanted to encourage people to have conversation. You know, I think united is in the name of this country. I'm originally from Australia. I was born in Sydney, Australia, and lived there till I was 11, moved to the States. So I have an interesting outside perspective of the United States, but we are more less united than any time since potentially the Civil War, in my perspective. And so, you know, what a unique study of people thrown together in the walls of a compound in the homestead and trying to figure out how to put aside the differences and celebrate the similarities. And whether they're Christian or not, whether they're atheist or Muslim, no matter the color of their skin, they are got to survive. They have to figure out how to work together to survive the end of the world. And I love that conversation. So when you say you've got a lot going on here, a lot of different storylines, is it Christian? Is it not? Is it faith-based? Mm-hmm. You know, is it an end times thriller? It's all of it. And to me, that's where it gets really, really interesting, because we can take all of these people that might go and see this movie and have conversations about what does kindness and courage look like in an end world situation. What would you do when everything's taken away? Can you love your neighbor? Or are you going to fight your neighbor? Are you going to grab guns and defend yourself? Or are you going to help them? And I hope people have that conversation openly, and whether they're Christian or not, it doesn't matter to me. This film is really for everybody.
Well, I appreciate you chatting with me today. I could go for another 30 minutes. Like, there's so much to dive into
Well,
with
and I
this
was
film.
gonna
Maybe
say,
after the series is over, we can come back and
I would love
jump
to
back
continue the
in.
conversation. You're one of my favorites so far, and I was trying to figure out if I have anything right after you, because you have more. Hold on, let me check.
Yeah, I don't want to give away spoilers. I want to give people a chance to like watch it, and then we can dive in, because I if you see or talk to Curry Graham, I want you to tell him every time he came on screen, I was angry. And so he did such a good job. Like, I was literally telling him, like, that food isn't yours. You can't do that. That isn't even the law. Like, get out. Like, I was literally, I love it when I can have a conversation with the film. And like you said, everybody asks me, like, how do I rate a film? What do I like about films? And for me, whether you think the film is good or bad, whether you agree with it, if it forces you to have a conversation, if it forces you to go and look something up and to learn more about a situation, then it's done its job. And so I would press people, at least to go check this out, to maybe have a conversation with your family this holidays, or your neighbors, or your group of people that you see things with and that you celebrate with. Yes, it is a little dark. Yes, it is PG-13. So you need to know that if you're, bringing kids into the situation. But for me, I think it's a good conversational topic for your kids and your family and your neighbors and your peer groups. I will be talking about this on Good Things Utah tomorrow, and I will tell people to come and watch this. But there is a surprise after the film when you see it in the theater. So you got to wait. You got to sit and wait until the film is over. And I can't remember if it's before the credits or after the credits. There's a little surprise for audiences.
It's right before the credits.
Okay.
And I, without giving anything away, guys, where this thing is going is the proudest I've ever been of anything I've ever made. The film is I really am proud of the film and what we pulled together in a really difficult situation in the middle of the SAG strike with very limited budget. But the series is the proudest achievement of my career so far. So I really, really hope people stick around to see the surprise.
Well, I do too. This movie will be in theaters. You can see Homestead in theaters tomorrow. So if it's something that you plan on, I know a lot of people have, they go to movies on Christmas with their families. There's a lot up against you this weekend. You guys are super brave. I mean, you've got Mufasa, you've got Sonic, you've got, oh my gosh, there's a lot. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot. And I think, this isn't your typical faith-based, family-friendly project. Though I will say this, I have a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, and every decision I made in the process of making it was like, would my kids be able to watch this? Nice. And they came to the Nashville premiere a few nights ago, and my 9-year-old, who's very sensitive to a lot of these things, sat in there and watched it the entire time. And yes, was like pulling close to me, and Daddy hold me in a few moments, but he made it through. And we had some incredible conversation that came out of it. And yes, I'm sure, go see Sonic, go see
Don't
Mufasa.
go see Sonic.
Oh, don't? Okay.
No, unless your son or you is really into the game, it is not.
All right.
Don't waste your money at the theater unless your kids are really, really into it. I just didn't care for it. And I'm all about like fun animated live action mixed movies, and I just didn't care for it. But yeah, so I would put this one on your list. You also have like Nosferatu is coming out, totally different. You have 3 totally different movies coming out this weekend, so something for everyone. But if you want one that will cause you to ask those questions and have conversations, you can check out Homestead. Now, you're going to be focusing on this for a while because it's a series, but do you have anything that people should like stay tuned for in the future that you're going to be producing, directing, kind of putting together?
Yeah, well, it all depends on this weekend, really. People make us say it all the time. the weekend, the box office weekend of any film for the first week is so telling on what's next. If it does well, Homestead, we're meant to be filming back in Utah early spring, and we will be there for a long time. We would film the rest of season 1 and season 2 pretty much back to back. So that's the hope. Now,
where are people going to get to stream it? Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You can stream it on Angel's app or on their website, angel.com. And I hate that for everybody. They're like, oh, another app? I have to download another app? Fantastic. And there's a lot of really great content on there beyond just Homestead. But you have to see the movie in order to watch the first few episodes. So
there's a gift for you waiting at the end of the movie.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate talking to you, Ben, and I wish you and the rest of your team good luck this weekend. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, Val. This was really, really fun. Thanks for asking the hard questions.
I love it. And if you're heading out to the movies this weekend, let me know what you think. You can let me know on all my social medias at I am Val Cameron or right here on YouTube. Just go ahead in the comments. Let us know what you thought about the movie. And I want to know who people bring to this movie. This is another one too. I'm very interested just because of all the different genres. I want to know who you're taking. So let me know. Merry Christmas, everybody. And we'll talk about more movies next week.